Hi everyone, my name is Israel, and in this video, we're going to show you how to create your first page on CloudPages. Some years ago, I created a video kind of like the crash course on iReport, and it's a very popular video. People watch it all the time, ask me, if we're willing to train people on iReport, and sadly, we're not going to do that anymore. But what I am happy to tell you is that I think you'd like this over iReport any day, anyway. So just as an agenda, what we're going to do is show you kind of like the setup and configuration of CloudPages. It's very basic. It's not a comprehensive review, just the basics to get you going. Creating a page, where to find pages, files, things like that. Editing some of the base HTML. This is not supposed to be like a web development course, but just some basics. And then we're going to show you the end result and see if that's something you guys are interested in. And without further ado, let's get started. So some prerequisites. You'll need a working Fishbowl installation. You'll need our plugin. The plugin is installed in the plugins folder of Fishbowl. We'll have that documented elsewhere. And then you'll need to configure CloudPages with some sort of repository. It doesn't work without a Git repo of some sort. So let's pop over to CloudPages and talk about that. When you're in the CloudPages module, you can go to module options and go to repositories. Here I've configured the public ILC sample pages repository. You do not need a username and password for this. This allows anonymous checkout. And when you've got this, it'll copy all the files that are already there in the repository. That'll be some good starting points. But what you can do is open the folder, navigate to the repository, and remove everything that's here, and just give yourself a hello world to look at or work with, right? And that's what we'll start with, and that's what we currently have here. So let's talk about where we're going to end up at, and then go piece by piece into what it takes to do that. So I'm going to open up this cloud page, and what we have here is a very basic HTML page with a button that when you click the button here, it shows you a table, right? Easy, like kind of nice. This is the kind of experience that I want customers to have. I want to add parameters to this. I want to make whole the ecosystem really useful for both developers and customers. We'll talk more about that in other videos, but for today, we're just going to go show you what it takes to create this page. Okay, so we're going to have that pop. Let me make that, do some housekeeping here, and I'll open up Visual Studio Code, and I'll open the appropriate folder. And give me a second. Okay, we'll select open folder. And here we are. So we've got already this existing HTML page, but I'm going to actually delete a lot of it. I'm going to pull that off to the side here. And we're going to go line by line on what it takes to create an HTML page. Cool? Cool. So let's go ahead and just delete everything. Boom. And then start from delete everything and save, and then refresh. There we go. Got to do the save. And this is it. So we've got a blank canvas, nothing really going on. If we use the HTML structure here, again, nothing's going to show up. Let's do an H1 test, hello world, and then boom. Again, not a whole lot going on. This is basic high school level, web editing, and we don't really do much beyond that. But what we do is we do want this to start working kind of within the Fishbowl ecosystem. So what we've done is we've created some additional meta tags that I'm going to copy in that kind of inform the system. What should we call this? Does it have a description? Does it have a title? What modules it does? These are kind of data that we want to embed in the HTML file itself so that we can use it in appropriate other places. For now, I just copied and pasted the original meta tags that was previously there. We'll talk about that in other videos, in other documentation. Let's call this your first page. Cool. And then let's get in some additional resources. So what you'll be able to do, and what we haven't done in this case, is you'll be able to use any web resource. Like it's the full Fishbowl browser. There's really no limitations on what you can do there. But what I do recommend down the road is if you want this stuff to be non-web necessary beyond your repository, and even if your repository is internal, that's fine too. You can copy these resources and leave them into a folder. Like you can create like a new JS folder. You can create a new um, CSS folder and put your resources relative to that, and just use relative references to that resources. But for now, we're going to use this because this is quick, this is easy, and I know what to do. In this case, let's talk a little bit about what we're adding. I'm adding the Bootstrap styling because I like Bootstrap, and that gives us some basic JS. jQuery, which is I know a resource that's been used for a long time now. It's fine. It's good enough for what we're doing. You can do this in vanilla JS. There's nothing special about CloudPages that you need jQuery or Bootstrap or anything else. But we are going to use something a little special, a library called DataTables. And DataTables allows us to create that table that you saw earlier, and making it look nice and that sort of stuff. So, and we also add a CSS to go with it. And if you want to do things differently, then by all means, do something different. Use a different table. Use a different CSS. We're not telling you how to do development. We're just giving you the platform to do your development. Cool. So let's save that. See what it looks like. Okay, cool. We've got hello world. No big deal. But the first thing I'm going to drop in is the rest of the body. So I'm going to grab this off page and drop that in. And look at that, what that looks like. Okay, cool. So this is our first page. We've got a button. Cool. I'm not going to talk about too much, but you get the idea. We've got a button. We gave it an ID. We have a div for the table. We have a table itself, and that's all there, right? That's all copacetic. Now the next section is just a little bit of a pigeon, right? So we want to get data out of the Fishbowl database, and in order to do so, we need to have some SQL, right? And for these kind of like single page applications, I really would like to have everything on the same page. I could have a folder with SQL and a bunch of file names and SQL, and we do support that as well in the JavaScript. But when we're trying to say, okay, I want to pick up this particular project, look at it, chew on it, put it back down, send it over the wall. Yeah, I just want it all in the same folder. So what we're going to do is add a script tag, give it an ID of SQL, and tell the browser that it's type plain. And I'm just going to drop in my SQL right here. Like this is it. This is very basic. It could be as complex as you want, as simple as you want, but this for now, that's what we're doing. Cool. And again, when we refresh, nothing's really happening. Nothing really special is happening. Okay. So the last thing is we need to have some sort of interactive JavaScript. Like otherwise, this is just a page. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't. Sure, we can draw something on the screen, but fine. It becomes alive once we actually start adding JavaScript. So let's add another script tag. And what we're going to do is the function on click. Oops. And we'll do something like that. Like if you're a JavaScript developer, you know exactly what that looks like, exactly what that means. But what we're going to do is show you the debugger. Now, if you're familiar with Chrome development and Chrome debugging, like this is very similar. Like this is Chromium inside the browser. When we refresh and hit the button, here we go. Fantastic. And if we want to, we can also set a breakpoint. And when we hit that button, we can interact or debug or troubleshoot what we're doing. And this experience should be very, very similar to what most web developers are used to, except we're not doing like server-side JS or anything like that. I'll minimize that for now. And let's talk about some of the things that we definitely need. The first thing we need is we need the actual SQL query. So we'll do this. That little snippet of code gets us a SQL query. The next thing I need is the results from the database. So we have a special object that we add to the browser window called FB Client, and there's a whole documentation site for that. The idea is that FB Client will take in a parameter, or take in its function parameter is a SQL query, and later on you can also provide an object of parameter, so we can do parameterized SQL. Very good. But the idea is that we'll be able to run the SQL statement from here, get the results, and do something with it. The only issue is that when we're interfacing between Java, the backend of the Fishbowl client, which is written in Java, and JavaScript, which is what we're using um, in the browser, things get a little weird because objects don't really pass through. Technically, it does, and we will figure this out better, but it's a little easier for us to create a method that just takes in primitives and gives you primitives. That's it. So we'll give it a SQL query in a string, and it gives us results of a JSON in a string, and we parse it, and we have some results. Now, what we could do is also log that table results object, right? We'll refresh this. Oops, I've got it open in the debugger. And yep, I'll take that out and continue. Okay, and then we'll go to console, and boom, we've got data. Good, it works, right? It's doing its thing. Now, how do we take the results that we have in memory, like it's there, it's just not on screen, not what a customer would see, and actually use it on screen in the div that we created this results table, right? So this is where the data table and jQuery starts becoming a fun. I wouldn't say fun, but you can see the power and being able to do this. So we're going to do our selector here to results table, data table, and then it's going to need some parameters in order to do so. So we need to tell it the data, which in this case is results object, and we need to specify what columns to display. So columns, and this is all a definition or magic that is part of the data tables library. And later we'll explain kind of what we might think of how to do this even easier. And that's it. I won't try to explain how data table works. This is not a data table video. In fact, you could do this with any other data table style project. It's going to have its own constructors, its own approaches to handling data or displaying that data or rendering that data or handling virtualization of data results, speed, performance, all those sort of things. But for now, this is basic enough for us to make do with what we have. So I'll hit refresh, I hit execute, and there we go. Not a whole lot of code. Overall, this HTML is 66 lines of code. Did not take us that long. It took us 13 minutes here by explanation. Of course, the bulk of the magic is going to be down in this SQL statement because you have to talk to the customer or you have to know yourself what you're looking for. And thankfully, we can develop those things either using our AI product or you can use the Fishbowl data module on your own to develop this. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what you need to do in order to see the results, and this is the basics of it. Now, once we save this, we can go ahead and commit this to repository. You can use your own Git repository tools to do that. Add the file, commit it, push it out. The idea is that the clients will then get a copy and a synchronization on next start to go ahead and download those files and be available for use here. And we've got some other fancy things like where you can say like, the system's in development mode or force developer resets, that sort of thing. So there's a little more safety for preventing someone sideloading some things. For example, you won't be able to open the debug console unless you're the admin user. With some other thoughts about that as well. We can maybe change that down the road. But yeah, that's the whole idea is that we'll be able to deploy these changes test them, see what they look like, and push them out. And the other thing that you'll be able to do is, we haven't talked about this too much, is in terms of deployment, we can say, okay, which groups of users and or which users should have access to this page, right? So we can say Victorio needs to have access to this page and the warehouse needs to have access to the page, right? Just save that and that's it. That's really easy. Something that I wish Fishbowl could do in the data module or the client mod or the report module. But anyway, it is what it is. We have a way to do it on our own. This is how we decide to do it, and this is how we deploy your first page. If you have questions, if you have ideas, please leave them in the comments. We want to respond to them. The next videos that we'll be talking about is how does CloudPages work on the different operating system platforms, on Windows, OS X, Linux, some of those sort of things. And then we're going to be starting a video series on CloudPages, but at a technical level of SQL, maybe like a little cheat sheet, kind of cookbook style videos. And then later on, where we start getting really advanced, we'll be talking about how to make API calls within the Fishbowl client, using the Fishbowl client to do things like import CSVs, do some of the legacy JSON requests, that sort of thing. And then potentially, if there's interest, we'll do the REST API that Fishbowl provides. But that's it. That's all I've got for you today. As always, if you have any questions, please leave a comment, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Take care.